but you are missing, you know, English, McCann.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot right there. And of course, center field, you know, with Will Height. So what do you see from the guys coming back, and what are you looking for from them?
Well, I think we do. We have 6 starters back, guys that have played a lot. I think the encouraging thing for me is that our infield, with the exception of English, is back. And I think that those guys, particularly last year, played really good defense. You know, they look really good here in the preseason. Replacing Tristan English, it's probably not gonna happen. And you know, we feel like we have some good young guys that'll go over there, but we certainly can't expect them to have any kind of year like English had. And then even McCann, you know, did a tremendous job of just being a warrior and catching all the time. So probably going to catch, you know, a freshman with Cam Turley and another freshman kind of battling for some playing time. But to replace those 2 guys in the middle of the order, extremely difficult. You know, Nick Wilhite played great for us last year. We kind of feel like we'll get Goldberg back to where he can play in the outfield. And then you got Colin and Barron back in there. So I feel like defensively, you know, catching is a huge position, so we got to see that. But, you know, our catchers have worked real hard. I think that'll still be a staple position for us. But, you know, replacing those 2 bats in the middle order, I mean, it's going to have to be more of a team effort.
Have you decided, or if you come any closer to deciding, who you like as a fielder in center field?
So we'll probably play Colin and Goldberg there. There's a freshman, Tres Gonzalez, that'll see time there. We still don't know, you know, just the wear and tear of playing every day on Michael Goldberg, like is his shoulder going to hold up? You know, we're probably concerned about that, and if it stays a concern, then we would probably play Colin in center more, just because you're going to get more balls in center than you would get in left field. And then Gonzalez is very good as well. So, you know, Goldberg ends up not being able to go every day, then it would be a situation we may move Colin to left, play Tress in center, and still keep Barron, you know, in right. So, you know, feel like defensively, is somebody going to be as good as Nick? I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's many guys that could play like he played defensively, but I still think we'll be good defensively out there.
You talk about losing Tristan's bat. You also lose those 3 outs in the 9th. Who are you looking at to close?
That's a great question. You know, I mean, if you ask us today, like who's starting and who's closing, I couldn't answer the question. I think we're going to try to figure out here in the next 3 weeks, like, you know, I can assure you Court Rodig will be in our starting rotation, but I'll just use a guy like an Archer who's back this year that, you know, we feel like he could be a starter, but we also look at a guy like Jonathan Hughes who won, I think, 8 games last year, mostly out of our bullpen, and we're going to try to start him. But do you take Archer and put him in Hughes' role where he's in there in the 5th, 6th inning, 7th inning, kind of settling the game, and you can rack up a lot of wins, you know, that way. The good thing last year, we were never out of a game, and so, you know, how much of that was attributed to McCann and English, you know, late in games hitting home runs with guys on. You can't really count on that, but I think more importantly, you're trying to eliminate the other team from scoring in those, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th innings. You know, and then we got to decide on a closer, and you know, we probably have a few guys in mind for that, but until we just see them again here, you know, in these next 3 weeks, we can't say who it's going to be right now. Just don't know.
Losing English and McCann, you lose a lot of home runs, a lot of extra base hits. When you lose all that power, do you think that kind of shifts the identity of the team heading into this season? Maybe
a little bit. You know, I mean, we do feel like there's going to be some freshmen that are going to hit home runs, but until you see them in a game and you know they're playing against another opponent other than ourselves, it's hard to just totally gauge how that's going to go. I think some of our guys that have played here are going to hit more home runs, whether it's Waddell or Colin or Goldberg, you know, somebody like that that steps up, instead of hitting 4, they hit 10. that's the kind of the missing link. I mean, have we bunted more? Yeah, we've bunted more, but you know, I've never probably been a guy that just likes to give somebody an out. It would be bunting for a hit, doing things like that. But we may have to manufacture more than we have or we did last year.
And speaking of that freshman class, you're bringing in a top 5 class. What kind of impact do you expect this freshman class to have on this season? Do you expect anyone to have an immediate impact?
I think there's several guys, and they're going to have an impact. You know, you look at, you know, I think if we started today, we're going to start Andrew Compton at first base. He's a switch hitter. He's got power from both sides of the plate. You know, he handled the fall, the 2 games we played, even though it's just a brief glimpse. I mean, wasn't intimidated by anything. You know, I think a guy like Andrew Jenkins is a really, really good hitter. Tres Gonzalez is a really good baseball player. Jaden Jackson, one of our middle infielders, he may have to sit and watch a little bit, but you know, I think he's a good player. Jake Holland behind the plate. I mean, you never want to compare him to anybody. I'll just say this. I mean, if you looked at his body and looked at Joey Bart when Joey Bart was a freshman, you'd say similar bodies. Can he produce like Joey Bart? I mean, that's yet to be seen. But I do think he's, you know, I think he'll be a good catcher for us. I think he's got power. Then on the mound, I mean, that's where we're going to need, you know, a lot of these guys. You know, a guy like Zach Maxwell has a better arm than anybody we've had here in a long time. And, you know, he pitched over in South Carolina, and it was, I think, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. And so, but we're going to have to run him out there just to develop him. But you're going to, you know, your heart rate's going to go up a little bit too, because he's going to walk some people, but then he's capable of striking 3 guys in a row out. Jackson Finley is a really, really good 2-way player. I think he'll help us on the mound. I think he can help us hitting. And then it just kind of goes on and on, really, with, you know, quite a few of those freshmen that you're going to see in the mix pitching-wise.
You had a great season a year ago, but maybe didn't end the way you guys wanted. Have you seen some, I guess, focused dedication from the guys coming back in terms of trying to get back to where they were and get beyond that point?
Yeah, you know, that kind of goes both ways. So we have tried to impress upon them that English and McCann and Connor Thomas and you know, Herder's, you know, probably out for a good chunk of the year with the Tommy John, Xavier Curry. Those guys are gone. They're not going to walk through the door. We can't, you know, they can't help us win this year. So you're happy that you were in the mix. You're the number 3 national seed. We do feel like it gives us a lot of momentum going into this year, but this will be a totally different journey that these guys are getting ready to go on. I think a guy like, I'll just use it as an example, Luke Waddell, I mean, I'll guarantee you that probably every day since that Auburn game, he's probably had it in his mind that he made an error in the 9th inning, which is very uncharacteristic of him, and that kind of started that inning. We had a way, so this is our first practice today, but I mean, we've been doing individual workouts, or, you know, the 8 hours a week where only 4 can be baseball related. So we always have a little plan for the day. Well, the plan for the day was, it just happened to have a picture of Stephen Williams with his helmet off getting ready to hit home plate. So, and that really stuck a nerve on most of our guys when they saw that picture on there. So we have ways of reminding them of that. But, you know, that was last year, and like I said, this is a totally new deal coming here.
You mentioned like you said, every year is a different team.
Mm-hmm.
What's different about this team than last year?
More depth. I mean, we've got more position player depth. We've got more arms. We have a new pitching coach that I am extremely high on, and you know, James Ramsey came in here in January last year, and I thought made an impact on our team, made an impact on our hitters and offense. I'm hoping that Danny Burrell has the same impact on our pitching staff. And, you know, I see it day to day, and, you know, I hope that when we start playing that, you know, our fans see kind of the work that's gone in on the pitching side with him. I think he's done a tremendous job of just development. I think guys are way better now than they were in the fall. And we have more choices, I think, on the mound than we've had. what we lack is the experienced guy. I mean, you know, you got Hughes and Rodig, and, you know, Rodig came on and threw really well for us last year. Hughes threw real well last year, has thrown great this fall, and he's way better now than he was at any point last year. Getting Archer back will help us, but then it's kind of like you got Luke Bartnicki sitting there, who had a great year for us last year. But after those guys, then it's these freshmen or some of the other upperclassmen that maybe didn't have big roles that they've got to take on a prominent role on that pitching staff. So probably just more depth, more arms. You know, I think I have a great coaching staff, and this is a team that, you know, from start to finish should get better every day because of we're young, but, you know, I'll never use being young as an excuse. I mean, these guys have played a lot of baseball. We've had a semester to try to get them ready, and now they're going to get thrown in the fire.
And what is the expectation of this team? What is the identity of this team?
Expectation is always, you know, we want to be the best team in our state. We want to be the best team in the league, and we want to be the best team in the country when it's all said and done. What's the identity? I think that's yet to kind of be determined. You know, last year we kind of hung the grit thing on that team, but, you know, you had guys like Tristan English and McCann and guys like that were pretty gritty players, and, you know, so I think each team kind of has to establish what their identity is. You know, I think one, you always want to be competitive, and, you know, and we preach being competitive in everything we do, so that will never go away. But you know, we don't have experience, so we got to get that as we're going. But I do think we'll be able to compete day in and day out for 9 innings.
You mentioned the grit, and that was evident at the top of the order with Waddell and Goldberg. How big will they be this year, repeating that to maybe help ease the 3 and 4 hitters? They're getting the ability to get on base.
No question. I mean, you know, so if we started today, and you know, I'm saying Luke Waddell's going to lead off, even though we've had conversations that we think he could be a really good 3-hole hitter because he is tough, he's gritty. You know, you want him up there with somebody on base, but I think he's really valuable as a leadoff hitter. I think he, you know, he's one of the leaders of the team. I think you know, he's going to go a long way in kind of establishing our culture and our identity just because of the way he goes about his business. Goldberg obviously is going to be there. Colin probably will be up in the order a little bit. Then you get to Baron Ratcliffe. So, you know, Baron Ratcliffe ended up just having a great year coming on. But I would say he's probably got a little bit of a target on his back because he kind of came from nowhere last year. All of a sudden he's second team All-ACC, and deservingly so. Who hits behind him? And that's probably the biggest, you know, who are we going to stick or surround Baron with? We can get guys in front of him. We're going to get on base, and so he's going to come up and have a chance to do some damage. But who's going to go behind him that they just can't say, well, put him on, we're walking him, we'll go at Compton or Holland or Jenkins or somebody else that's kind of hitting behind him. That's what we got to kind of figure out, and again, that will go a long way in establishing probably our identity as an offensive team.
You have a lot. Go ahead.
When you go back to Barron, he came here as a football player, you know, didn't play baseball year round, struggled a little his first year, made a jump the second year like you talked about. Is this a year where you expect him to make another one of those leaps and maybe cut down on strikeouts and increase his production? We
want him to, and certainly he wants to. But that's, you know, it's just got to be a process that he's gone through, and we hope that he makes another jump this year like he did last year, to where maybe not striking out as much, but hitting for a higher average. You know, he's one of the fastest guys on our team. We just had a little conversation there early. We had some pro guys in here today, and, you know, if we went out and ran a 60-yard dash, he'd be one of our fastest guys, but yet he's got to be able to use his speed in a game and show everybody, hey, I'm 6'4", 225 pounds, but I can really move. So I fully expect, I mean, I know, you know, like most of our guys, I mean, you know, he wants to be a pro baseball player and he wants to get drafted high, but he's got to be able to show people his skills. One is big part of it's hitting, but, you know, he's also got to show them I can go play in the outfield, I can throw, I can run, do all the stuff you got to do.
having kind of a unique situation where you're very inexperienced at catcher and starting pitching, not super experienced in that role, and a new pitching coach, is it going to be a lot of feeling out in the early part of the season in terms of roles and how involved you get in calling pitches and those kinds of things? And
could be. I mean, we'll call a lot of the pitches, particularly with the freshman catcher. But I do think Holland is kind of advanced. Grew up in Florida, was around some good people kind of coming up. I think he's pretty advanced. Turley has been in our program for quite a few years, so, you know, but I do feel like we'll call the majority of the pitches this year. But then, yeah, it's going to be some give and take and observations of how's this guy react when guys get on base, or, you know, you give up 3 runs in the first inning and you're going to end up giving up, you know, 5 or 6 in 2 innings and you're out, or do you kind of, you know, bear down and hang in there for another 4 or 5 innings, and then we go to somebody, you know, in the middle innings to try to help us win the game. So those are things, until you start playing somebody, it's hard to predict, you know, how it's going to go down.
Maybe 1 or 2 more.
Besides Court, who do you see as being candidates to start?
Besides Court, Hughes.
Yeah.
You know, Hughes is going to be, he's going to be in there, and then it could be Maxwell, it could be Finley, it could be Archer. There's a couple of freshman left-handers, you know, Smith and Siegel, that I think are both very, you know, very good pitchers as well. Bartnicki's kind of in the same vein as Archer. He was very valuable for us, sticking him in games in the middle last year, and he could get us a couple innings, or particularly if we wanted to use somebody to get left-hand hitters out. I mean, he's kind of death on left-hand hitters. So is he more valuable keeping him in the pen as opposed to starting him? So those are, next 3 weeks, those are things we'll, you know, try to iron out. And, you know, one of the great things last year is, and he was just in here today, is Willingham kind of came in last year, ended up being our midweek guy, and I think he won 7 or 8 games last year. So we only lost 1 midweek game the whole time last year. So who goes into those midweek games, which are critical as well, to try to get you into, you know, postseason play. So we've got some things we got to figure out, but we'll get it, you know, figured out before we start playing. And, you know, you look at our schedule early. I mean, I know our season tickets have gone really well. There's still some available, so Tech fans out there like to see you jump on that momentum of, you know, we packed this place last year in regional play. We'd like to see a lot of people here when we start playing, but I know there's a lot of NCAA regional teams on our schedule. You got a team like Ohio State coming in who's ranked. And then we play Georgia on the weekend this year, and it's unfortunate that, you know, we were hoping we could play in SunTrust, and with the, I don't know what you want to call it, Snowgate or whatever in SunTrust, that they didn't feel like they could get the field ready, but we're happy to go to Gwinnett. I know the people at Gwinnett are excited to, you know, have that game up there on a Sunday with us and Georgia playing. And so those preseason weekends are critical for us. Not only we want to play well, but we also we got to figure out before that first conference game what's our weekend rotation, who's closing, and then who are our setup guys.
Boston made the transition from short to second. Did it, you know, the combination was still the same as it was when the roles were reversed, but his average slipped a little from the previous year. I guess he's another guy that you're looking forward to maybe picking up a little this year.
No question. You know, I mean, he was freshman All-American, slipped, you know, maybe a little as a sophomore. But to his credit, when we made that move last year, I wouldn't say he was 100% happy about it, but I think he understood it. I do think that made our team kind of go defensively, and you know, that's one of the things we kind of hang our hat on. I think he and Waddell are as good a 1-2 punch there in the infield in terms of turning double plays, making plays. But yeah, we'd like to see him, you know, get up over 300, and I think he's definitely capable. He works hard, and that would be a nice way for him as a senior to kind of roll out of here having his best year.
All right, thanks.